Michael Jordan sat behind his massive glass desk, staring at the stack of reports that seemed taller with every passing day. The sunlight streamed through the windows of his office, reflecting off the polished surfaces, yet it did nothing to lighten the weight he felt in his chest. His company, once thriving, was now struggling. Profits were down, clients were leaving, and employees seemed restless. He rubbed his forehead, thinking of the meetings he had earlier that morning. Every conversation had been a reminder of the pressures he faced. Every missed target, every small mistake felt like a hammer on his pride. Michael had always been known for his calm and collected nature. But today, even he could not hide his frustration. Meanwhile, down the long hallway, Tom Hanks, the janitor, moved quietly with his mop and bucket. Tom was a familiar presence in the building. For over 10 years, he had cleaned the offices, the hallways, and even the conference rooms, always with a soft smile and kind words for anyone who passed him. He had never complained, never demanded recognition, and yet his presence was a quiet but essential part of the company's daily life. Tom paused near a window, adjusting the curtain slightly to let in the morning light. He liked this part of the building, the quiet hallways before the day began, when he could hear the distant hum of the city outside. It reminded him why he had stayed loyal for so many years. He wasn't there for glory or recognition. He was there because he believed in work, in routine, and being part of something bigger than himself. Suddenly, Michael's voice broke through the calm of the morning. "Tom," he barked. The sound echoed down the hallway, startling a few employees who were passing by. Tom froze mid-step, gripping his mop tightly. His heart began to race. He had been prepared for challenges at work, yes, but he had never imagined hearing his name in such a tone from Michael Jordan himself. "I can't keep paying for mistakes," Michael continued, his voice sharp and tense. "I'm afraid I have to let you go." The words hit Tom like a heavy weight. He could feel the color drain from his face. His hands, usually steady, trembled slightly. He had been part of this company for over a decade, yet it all seemed so fragile. One wrong decision, one moment of frustration from the top, and years of loyalty could disappear in an instant. Tom's eyes lowered to the floor. He did not argue. He did not protest. He simply stood there holding the mop, feeling a strange mix of sadness, disbelief, and resignation. He had expected many things from life, but not this. Not to be cast aside by someone he had served faithfully for so long. Meanwhile, Michael's daughter, Taylor Swift, had been quietly observing from the edge of the office door. She had come to see her father that morning, curious about a few business matters, but what she saw made her pause. She noticed the sorrow on Tom's face, the way his shoulders slumped, the quiet dignity in the way he stood, and the silent acceptance of what he had just been told. Taylor felt a pang of emotion in her chest. She had always admired the janitor for his gentle nature, for the way he greeted everyone with a smile, no matter how busy he seemed or how tired he was. She stepped closer, careful not to interrupt her father's stern tone. Leaning slightly, she whispered almost to herself, "I will heal you." The words were soft, barely audible, yet they hung in the air like a fragile promise. Michael's brow furrowed. "What did you say, Taylor?" he asked, his tone mixing curiosity with irritation. "I said, I will heal him," she repeated, her voice calm but firm. She met her father's eyes, her gaze steady and unwavering. Michael shook his head, a frown forming on his face. "Heal him? Taylor, this is business. People make mistakes. Tom is. He's just a janitor. It's nothing personal." Taylor took a deep breath, her fingers lightly clutching the edge of the doorframe. "He's more than just a janitor, Dad. He keeps this place running when we all forget it exists. He does his job with care, with kindness, and with a heart that works harder than anyone I know. He deserves a chance, and maybe even something more." Michael looked back at Tom, who now stood silently, unsure if he should respond. Tom's eyes betrayed a mix of fear and gratitude. He had never imagined someone, especially the CEO's daughter, would see him this way, not as a mere employee to be discarded, but as a person with worth, dignity, and potential. "I don't have time for this," Michael muttered, trying to regain his composure. Yet despite his words, something in Taylor's tone lingered in his mind. There was a quiet confidence, a spark of belief that he could not easily dismiss. He leaned back in his chair, exhaling slowly, Fine, he said, his voice slightly softer than before. One last week, Tom. Prove to me that you still matter here. That's all I can give you. Tom's eyes widened in surprise. He blinked, unable to immediately respond. After a moment, he nodded slowly, a small smile beginning to form. Thank you, sir. I won't disappoint you, he said quietly, his voice steady despite the emotions swirling inside him. As Michael turned back to his reports, Taylor moved closer to Tom, her voice barely above a whisper. Don't worry, Tom, I'll help you. You'll see, everything will be all right. Tom chuckled softly, shaking his head. Taylor, you don't have to. I've survived this long. I can survive another week. Taylor smiled, her eyes shining with determination. I don't want you to just survive. I want you to thrive. For the first time that morning, Tom felt a warmth he hadn't felt in years. It wasn't the warmth of recognition or money or praise. It was something quieter yet far more powerful. Someone believing in him when he had begun to doubt himself. That evening, the building was quiet once more. The employees had left and the hum of the city outside faded into the distance. Tom sat on a bench in the hallway, the mop resting against the wall beside him. He stared at the floor, thinking about Taylor's words, and felt a strange mix of hope and apprehension. Could a young girl really change the path of his life? Could someone actually help him in ways he had long forgotten? Meanwhile, Taylor sat across from him, her notebook open, filled with small sketches and notes. She had been studying basic therapies, exercises, and ways to improve mobility, and an idea had taken root in her mind. I can help you, she whispered. Not just your work, but your life. I can try to help you walk again. Tom looked at her, a soft laugh escaping his lips. Taylor, I've been paralyzed for 3 years. No one can fix that. Not even you. I don't care about that, she replied firmly, her eyes shining. I will try. And we'll start tomorrow. I promise. Tom stared at her, unsure what to say. The idea seemed impossible, almost foolish. Yet there was something in Taylor's voice and a quiet determination, a deep belief that stirred something long buried in his heart. As they sat together in the dimly lit hallway, the mop and bucket standing silently nearby, a bond began to form. It was not just about cleaning floors or walking again. It was about trust, hope, and the simple power of someone truly believing in another person. For the first time in a long while, Tom allowed himself to imagine a future where things could be different, where he could rise again, not just physically, but in spirit, where kindness and care could make a tangible difference in a world that often seemed harsh and unforgiving. And as Michael Jordan closed his office door, unaware of the quiet transformation beginning in the hallway, a small but powerful truth emerged. Sometimes, the smallest voices, a young girl's whisper, a janitor's quiet smile, could hold the greatest power to change lives. Tom Hanks, the janitor, had no idea how much his life was about to change, and Taylor Swift, the determined young girl, had no idea how deeply her promise to heal someone would shape not just his future, but the heart of an entire company. The next morning, the office felt unusually quiet. The usual hum of computers and chatter of employees had yet to fully awaken. Tom Hanks, the janitor, moved slowly down the hallways with his mop and bucket, his steps more deliberate than usual. He couldn't stop thinking about the events of yesterday, about Michael Jordan's harsh words and Taylor Swift's gentle promise. Tom had been in this company for over 10 years. He knew every corner, every floor, every little quirk of the building. He had always taken pride in his work, even when it went unnoticed. But yesterday had been different. Yesterday had made him feel both fragile and hopeful at the same time. Michael's words had cut deeper than any report or memo ever could. Yet Taylor's presence had planted a seed of hope in his heart, one that refused to be ignored. As he walked toward the first floor to clean the lobby, he noticed Taylor sitting at a small table near the entrance, her notebook open and pencil moving quickly across the pages. She looked up when she saw him, smiling warmly. Good morning. Tom, she said softly. Good morning. Taylor, he replied, forcing a small smile, though his heart still felt heavy. I thought about what I said yesterday, she continued, about healing you. I know it sounds strange, and I know it might be impossible, but I want to try. Tom chuckled softly, shaking his head. Taylor, you're just a young girl. You have your school and your own life. I can't ask you to waste your time on someone like me. You're not someone like you, she said firmly, her eyes meeting his. You're someone who deserves to walk again. You're someone who deserves to feel free, and I won't stop until I try." Tom's eyes softened. There was something in her voice and a quiet strength and unshakable belief that made him pause. He had lived with limitations for 3 years. Every day had been a reminder of what he could no longer do. But Taylor, she offered something he had not felt in a long time: hope. "All right, Taylor," he said, finally sighing. "We'll try, but I won't get my hopes up too high. I've learned the hard way that hope can hurt." Taylor nodded, her face serious but kind. "We'll start slow. I just want you to take small steps, both physically and mentally. You can do this, Tom. I know you can." The morning passed with unusual stillness. Employees began arriving, filing into their offices, unaware of the quiet determination brewing in the hallways. Michael Jordan, preoccupied with financial reports, barely noticed the small scene unfolding outside his office. As Tom moved from floor to floor, cleaning and organizing, Taylor followed quietly, observing how he moved, where he struggled, and what he avoided. She made mental notes, ready to plan exercises that would help him regain strength. Her determination was infectious, and Tom found himself smiling more than he had in weeks. By mid-morning, Tom paused near a window overlooking the city streets. He leaned slightly on his mop, looking out at the bustling world below. He had once been able to move freely, to walk without assistance, to feel the wind on his face without thinking twice. Now every movement required effort and planning. Yet, as he looked at Taylor beside him, he felt a spark he hadn't felt in years: the possibility of change. "Tom," Taylor said softly, placing a hand on his shoulder. "You don't have to do this alone. I'll be here every step of the way." He looked down at her, his heart touched by her sincerity. "You really believe I can do this?" he asked, his voice trembling slightly. "I do," she said firmly. "I wouldn't have said it if I didn't. You just need to believe it too." For the first time in a long while, Tom allowed himself to believe, even if only a little. The day continued, and soon it was lunch hour. Tom sat quietly in the small staff cafeteria, watching employees talk and laugh. It struck him how much he had missed being part of the world outside his limitations. He had spent years retreating into himself, accepting that some things were beyond his control. But now, with Taylor's presence, he felt the stirrings of possibility. "Are you okay, Tom?" Taylor asked, sitting across from him with a small lunch she had packed. "Yes," he replied, though the word felt strange on his lips. "I haven't felt okay in a long time, but I feel like maybe I could be." Taylor smiled, pleased with his response. She knew that the journey ahead would be long and challenging. Healing wasn't just physical. It was emotional, mental, and spiritual. Tom would need encouragement, patience, and consistent support, and she was determined to provide it. The afternoon passed slowly. Tom and Taylor spent time discussing small exercises that could strengthen his legs, improve his balance, and boost his confidence. It was challenging at first. Tom's body resisted, his muscles weak from years of disuse. Yet Taylor's optimism never wavered. Every small success, a few seconds of standing, a slight shift in balance, was celebrated. As evening approached, the office began to empty. The hum of computers dimmed and the sounds of the city outside became clearer. Tom found himself standing near a window, watching the sun sink behind the distant buildings. He felt a strange sense of peace mixed with excitement and anxiety. "Tomorrow we'll try walking a little," Taylor said softly, breaking the silence. "I know it's scary, but I'll be right here." "You won't fall, I promise." Tom nodded slowly. He trusted her more than he had trusted anyone in years. And that trust was powerful. Later that night at home, Tom reflected on the day. He thought about Michael's words, about the threat of being fired, and about the unexpected kindness of Taylor's belief in him. Life had been harsh, but it had also offered moments of grace, and perhaps this was one of them. Meanwhile, Michael Jordan sat in his office reviewing reports, unaware of the quiet transformation beginning in his building. He had been so focused on numbers, profits, and losses that he had failed to notice the human side of his company. Yet in the back of his mind, he couldn't shake the memory of Taylor's words. "I will heal him." He found himself pondering her statement. Could a young girl's belief really make a difference? Could she really help someone like Tom? Michael didn't know, but a part of him, buried under years of business pragmatism, wondered if perhaps he had underestimated the power of compassion, patience, and encouragement. The next morning arrived with soft sunlight and quiet anticipation. Tom arrived early, as usual, moving carefully through the hallways. Taylor was already there, waiting with a small mat and a few props she had brought from home. She looked up and waved, her eyes bright with determination. "Ready?" she asked. Tom took a deep breath. "As ready as I'll ever be," he replied, his voice steady, though his heart pounded with nervous excitement. The morning passed slowly as Taylor guided him through gentle stretches, small exercises, and basic movements. Tom was hesitant at first, fearing pain or failure, but with Taylor's guidance, he gradually began to trust his body again. Every movement was small, every step measured, but each one was a victory. Employees walking by paused occasionally, watching in surprise as the janitor they had always seen quietly working began to move with newfound determination. It was unusual, inspiring, and quietly magnetic. By late afternoon, Tom was standing without assistance for a few minutes. He couldn't walk yet, but the simple act of standing, of bearing weight on his legs, felt miraculous. He turned to Taylor, gratitude shining in his eyes. "I can't believe this is happening," he said softly. "You can," she replied, smiling. "I told you I'd help, and I'm not stopping." As the sun set over the city, Tom felt a sense of hope he hadn't felt in years. The road ahead was long and challenges awaited. But for the first time, he believed that change was possible, that life could be different, and that perhaps, with faith and determination, he could walk again. Taylor walked beside him as they left the office that evening, her presence a comforting reminder that he was not alone, and as Tom looked back at the building, he realized that yesterday's fear, the threat of being fired, no longer felt like the defining moment of his life. Instead, the defining moment had arrived quietly, softly, in the form of a promise whispered by a young girl. "I will heal you." The morning sun spilled across the office floor, casting long golden lines through the windows. The building hummed with the beginning of another day, but Tom Hanks moved quietly through the halls, the rhythm of his mop echoing softly against the polished floor. Each step was careful, deliberate, a small victory in itself. He had come to realize that this simple act of moving, of being present, carried far more weight than any promotion or salary ever could. Taylor Swift followed closely, her notebook tucked under her arm. She had arrived early, as she always did, ready to guide him through the exercises she had planned. There was a determination in her movements, a gentle firmness in her voice that encouraged Tom without pushing him beyond his limits. "Good morning, Tom," she said, her smile bright and steady. "Good morning, Taylor," he replied, his voice carrying a mixture of gratitude and uncertainty. He had begun to trust her guidance, yet the thought of failure still lingered in his mind. 3 years of paralysis had conditioned him to doubt his own body, to fear movement, and to believe in limitations more than possibilities. "Today, we'll try something new," Taylor said, setting down a small mat in a quiet corner of the hallway. "We're going to work on your balance and core strength. It's going to be slow, but it's important." Tom nodded. "I'm ready," he said, though his heart thumped in his chest. He was acutely aware that each small attempt carried the risk of disappointment, of frustration. Yet he also felt a flicker of hope that he hadn't felt in years, a quiet, steady flame that Taylor had ignited. They began with gentle stretches. Taylor guided Tom's arms, helping him lift and extend them in ways that felt almost impossible at first. Tom's muscles protested, trembling under the strain of movement they had not endured in years. But Taylor's encouragement was unwavering. "You're doing great, Tom," she said softly. "Just a little more. Remember, every small movement counts." Tom's eyes softened as he glanced at her. Her faith in him was remarkable. She had not known him for years, had not witnessed his struggles firsthand, and yet she believed in him fully. That belief, simple as it was, had become a lifeline. After stretching, they moved to balance exercises. Taylor had carefully studied methods that could help improve stability, and she had adapted them for Tom's specific needs. He gripped a chair lightly, stepping onto a soft mat. Each attempt required intense concentration, his mind focusing on the movement of his body, the shifting of weight, and the subtle cues Taylor provided. "Remember to breathe," Taylor reminded him. "Feel your body, Tom. You're stronger than you think." Tom exhaled slowly, attempting to steady himself. He wobbled at first, almost losing his balance. But with Taylor's hand gently guiding him, he regained stability. A small smile formed on his lips, a smile that had been rare these past years. It was a smile that spoke not of ease, but of determination, of quiet triumph in the face of struggle. As the morning passed, employees began arriving, their footsteps and voices filling the hallways. Yet Tom and Taylor continued their exercises undeterred. Occasionally, co-workers paused to watch, whispering softly to each other. They had always known Tom as the quiet janitor, a steady presence in the background. But now he was moving in ways they had never seen before. It was as if a new energy had entered his life, a reminder that even in the midst of limitations, change was possible. By midday, Tom had progressed to standing without support for a few minutes at a time. The accomplishment was small in the eyes of the world, but monumental for him. He turned to Taylor, gratitude shining in his eyes. "I never thought I could stand like this again," he said softly. "It feels incredible. You've earned it," Taylor replied with a gentle smile. "All it takes is belief and practice, and you have both." For the first time in years, Tom felt a sense of freedom. Not complete freedom, not yet, but the kind of freedom that comes from realizing that limitations are not always permanent. He had carried the invisible burden of his paralysis for so long that the mere act of standing upright felt like liberation. After lunch, the exercises continued. Taylor had prepared small, manageable tasks designed to challenge Tom's strength and balance incrementally. Each task was paired with encouragement, each small success celebrated. Tom found himself laughing softly, the sound foreign yet comforting. He had not realized how much he had missed simple joys, the satisfaction of accomplishing something, the warmth of companionship, and the gentle reassurance that someone believed in him. As the afternoon progressed, Tom's mind began to wander. He thought about the years he had spent trapped in limitations, the times he had felt invisible, and the moments he had allowed fear to dictate his life. And yet, as he looked at Taylor, he realized that he had also been blind to hope. Someone had seen him, not as a janitor, not as a man broken by circumstances, but as a person capable of growth and healing. "Taylor," he said quietly, "you've changed everything for me." "I didn't do it alone," she replied softly. "You did the work, Tom, I just guided you. But it's your strength that's making this possible." The word struck him deeply. He had been so used to living with limitations, so accustomed to doubting his own abilities that the notion of strength seemed foreign. Yet in Taylor's eyes he saw a reflection of his own potential, a potential he had almost forgotten existed. Later in the afternoon, Michael Jordan emerged from his office, having completed a string of meetings. He paused near the hallway, noticing the unusual scene unfolding before him. Tom Hanks, the janitor, was standing with Taylor beside him, performing movements that were clearly exercises. Michael's brow furrowed. He had known about the promise of the previous day, but seeing it in action stirred a mix of surprise and curiosity. "Tom," Michael said cautiously, stepping closer. "What is going on here?" Tom turned, his posture more upright than it had been in years. "We're working on getting me back on my feet, sir," he replied, a hint of pride in his voice. Michael looked at Taylor, who simply smiled and nodded. "He's stronger than he thinks," she said. "And we're making progress," Michael hesitated. He had spent so long focused on business, on numbers and results, that he had forgotten the human side of leadership. Seeing Tom, a man he had once been ready to fire, striving to reclaim his own strength, stirred something within him. Perhaps there was more to life and work than reports, meetings, and profits. Perhaps belief, patience, and encouragement mattered just as much. As the day drew to a close, Tom and Taylor completed their exercises. Tom's legs trembled slightly, but he stood taller than he had in years. Sweat glistened on his brow, a testament to the effort he had put forth. Yet, more than the physical exertion, he felt a sense of accomplishment, a quiet pride in what he had achieved. "You did amazing today," Taylor said, placing a hand gently on his shoulder. "Tomorrow we'll try walking a few steps with support. And then, one step at a time, we'll go further." Tom nodded, a small smile tugging at the corners of his lips. "Thank you, Taylor. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm excited for tomorrow." As they walked toward the exit, the building bathed in the soft glow of the setting sun, Tom reflected on the journey ahead. The road would not be easy. There would be setbacks, challenges, and moments of doubt. But with Taylor by his side, he felt ready to face whatever came next. That evening, as Tom rested at home, he thought about the invisible burden he had carried for so long. The fear, the frustration, and the resignation. It was still there, but it felt lighter now, less suffocating. He realized that hope, once rekindled, could be a powerful force, capable of lifting even the heaviest burdens and opening doors that had seemed forever closed. Meanwhile, Taylor prepared for the next day with meticulous care. She reviewed exercises, planned new movements, and thought about ways to encourage Tom without overwhelming him. Her dedication was unwavering. She knew the journey ahead would be long, but she believed in the power of small, consistent steps, and in the strength of a man who had almost given up on himself. As night fell over the city, a quiet calm settled in the building. The hum of activity had faded, replaced by the gentle whispers of hope and determination that lingered in the hallways. Tom Hanks, the janitor, had taken his first steps toward reclaiming his life. And Taylor Swift, the determined young girl, had ignited a spark that promised to burn brightly, guiding them both toward a future filled with possibility, resilience, and renewed hope. Little did they know, the events of the coming weeks would challenge them in ways they could never anticipate, teaching lessons not only about physical strength but about courage, compassion, and the transformative power of belief. And in the quiet moments of that evening, one truth stood clear. Even the smallest gestures, a promise whispered, a hand extended, a belief expressed, could begin to heal invisible wounds and change lives forever. The morning sun poured through the tall office windows, bathing the hallways in a soft, warm glow. The building was alive with the usual sounds, the shuffle of papers, the quiet footsteps of employees, and the faint hum of computers powering up. But in one quiet corner of the office, a different kind of energy was unfolding. A mix of determination, hope, and the promise of change. Tom Hanks, the janitor, sat on a small mat carefully placed in the hallway. He was nervous. Each day brought new challenges, and today was no different. He had come to accept his limitations over the past 3 years. But Taylor Swift, Michael Jordan's daughter, had shown him that hope could exist even in the darkest places. "Good morning, Tom," Taylor said softly, kneeling beside him. "Today we'll try something different. You're ready for it, I promise." Tom looked up at her, uncertainty written on his face. "I don't know, Taylor. Last time I tried, it hurt physically and emotionally. I'm afraid I might fail again." Taylor placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "You won't fail. I'll be with you every step, trust me. And remember, it's okay to take small steps, literally and figuratively." Tom nodded, taking a deep breath. The mat beneath him was soft but firm, providing stability. He slowly lifted one leg, then the other, guided by Taylor's careful instructions. Every movement was deliberate. Every slight shift of balance was celebrated. "Good, Tom," Taylor exclaimed softly. "Hold it steady. Now breathe. You're stronger than you think." For the first time in years, Tom felt a spark of confidence. It was not complete confidence, not yet, but enough to push him forward. He focused on the sensation of his muscles engaging, the subtle feedback from his body, and the quiet encouragement from Taylor. Step by step, he felt more in control, more connected to a body he had long considered weak and untrustworthy. As the morning progressed, they moved to more advanced exercises. Taylor had prepared small objects, cones, small chairs, and resistance bands, to challenge Tom's balance and strength. He stumbled occasionally, his body protesting against the unfamiliar movements. But Taylor's presence was unwavering. "Remember," she said gently, "every stumble is a step forward. Don't be afraid. You are learning. You are growing." Tom's face softened, a small smile forming despite the strain. It was a smile of determination, of hope, of courage slowly returning. The exercises were not easy, and there were moments of frustration. But each small success, each second of balance, each tiny movement forward was a victory that built momentum. Meanwhile, Michael Jordan walked past, pausing for a moment in the hallway. He had been busy in his office, reviewing reports and preparing for meetings, but he could not ignore the unusual sight. Tom Hanks, the janitor he had once been ready to fire, was moving under Taylor's careful guidance. He observed quietly, curiosity mixed with surprise. "What is happening here?" Michael muttered to himself. He watched as Tom shifted weight from one leg to another, carefully navigating small obstacles Taylor had set up. The transformation was subtle, almost imperceptible yet powerful. The man who had been paralyzed, who had carried the invisible burden of limitation for years, was beginning to reclaim his mobility, and he was doing so with grace, focus, and determination. Taylor noticed Michael watching and smiled. "He's making progress," she said softly. "Much more than you realize." Michael nodded slowly, a strange feeling stirring in his chest. For so long he had focused on numbers, results, and efficiency, yet here was a lesson in patience, belief, and human resilience that no spreadsheet could ever teach. By lunchtime, Tom had achieved a milestone. With Taylor's support, he had taken several steps along the hallway, his movements deliberate but fluid. Each step was careful, measured, yet it carried the weight of years of determination and hope. He looked at Taylor, his eyes shining with a mix of pride and disbelief. I can walk even if just a few steps," he said softly, shaking his head in amazement. "I never thought I would feel this again." "You can do it, Tom," Taylor replied, her smile bright and steady. "And tomorrow we'll go further. One step at a time, remember?" Tom nodded, feeling a sense of accomplishment he had not experienced in years. The feeling was intoxicating, a reminder that perseverance and belief could overcome even the harshest challenges. The afternoon brought new challenges. Taylor had planned exercises that involved turning, bending, and reaching, movements that tested Tom's balance in ways he had not yet faced. At first he struggled. His body remembered its limitations and fear crept into his mind. But Taylor's calm presence and encouraging words helped him push through. "You're doing amazing," she said. "Look at how far you've come. Don't focus on fear and focus on what you can do." Slowly, step by step, Tom regained control. His confidence grew with each movement, and the fear that had once held him captive began to dissolve. He realized that the limitations he had accepted for years were not permanent. They were challenges to be faced, one small step at a time. By late afternoon, Michael Jordan returned to the hallway, drawn by curiosity and a sense of awe. He watched as Tom walked a longer distance, using a support for guidance, yet moving steadily and with purpose. Michael's initial skepticism gave way to admiration. The janitor he had almost fired was demonstrating a strength and resilience he had never anticipated. "Tom," Michael said finally, stepping closer, I am impressed. You've worked harder than I imagined possible." Tom looked at him, breathing heavily but standing tall. "Thank you, sir. I couldn't have done it without Taylor. She believed in me when I didn't even believe in myself." Michael nodded slowly, understanding the depth of what had occurred. He realized that leadership was not just about decisions, profits, or control. It was about belief, encouragement, and seeing potential where others might only see limitation. As the day ended, Tom and Taylor gathered their equipment. Tom's legs trembled from exhaustion, but his spirit soared. He had walked further than he had in years, and each step carried the weight of hope and determination. "You did incredible today," Taylor said softly, guiding him toward the exit. "Remember, each day will bring new progress. You're stronger than you know." Tom smiled, feeling a sense of gratitude that went beyond words. "Thank you, Taylor. You've given me something I thought I lost forever, and hope." That evening, Tom reflected on the day at home. He thought about the journey ahead, the challenges yet to come, and the progress he had made. He realized that healing was not only physical but emotional. Taylor had helped him rediscover belief in himself, and with that belief, the road ahead seemed brighter, filled with possibilities. Meanwhile, Taylor prepared for the next day with care. She reviewed exercises, planned new movements, and thought about ways to encourage Tom while respecting his pace. Her dedication was unwavering. She knew the journey would be long, but she believed in the power of consistent effort, patience, and belief. The next morning arrived, bringing with it a renewed sense of purpose. Tom approached the office with cautious optimism, each step a reminder of the progress he had already made. Taylor greeted him with a smile, her presence a comforting reassurance that he was not alone in this journey. "Today we'll try walking a little further," she said. "I know it's scary, but I believe in you." Tom took a deep breath and nodded. "I trust you, Taylor. Let's do it." As they began, Tom felt the familiar fear in his legs, the memory of past limitations. But he also felt something new: strength, hope, and determination. Step by step, he moved forward, guided by Taylor's steady encouragement. Each step was a small victory, yet collectively they represented a monumental achievement. By mid-morning, Tom had walked across the hallway several times, each time with increasing confidence. Employees passing by paused to watch, their whispers filled with admiration and surprise. The janitor who had been ready to be fired was now walking with purpose, reclaiming his life in front of their eyes. Michael Jordan, observing from his office, felt a deep sense of humility and reflection. He had been focused on efficiency, profits, and mistakes for so long that he had almost missed the human side of leadership. Seeing Tom's transformation reminded him that sometimes the greatest lessons come not from numbers or reports, but from courage, determination, and belief in one another. As the day drew to a close, Tom and Taylor completed their exercises. Tom's legs were sore, his body exhausted, but his spirit was alive with newfound energy. He had walked further than he had imagined possible, and he had done so with hope and determination guiding him. "You've done amazing today," Taylor said, guiding him to a chair to rest. "Tomorrow we'll go even further. One step at a time and you'll surprise yourself." Tom smiled, feeling a sense of gratitude he could hardly express. "Thank you, Taylor. You've given me a gift I thought I'd never receive. The belief that I can move forward, literally and figuratively." That evening, as the sun set over the city, a quiet calm settled over the office. The journey of healing had begun, and with it came lessons not only about physical strength but about courage, perseverance, and the transformative power of belief. Tom Hanks, the janitor, had begun to reclaim his life, and Taylor Swift, the determined young girl, had proven that even the smallest gestures, a promise, a guiding hand, a belief expressed, could change the course of a life forever. Little did they know, the days ahead would test their resolve, strengthen their bond, and reveal the true power of hope and determination in ways neither of them could yet imagine. The sun rose slowly over the city, casting a soft golden light through the tall windows of the office building. The morning air was fresh, carrying a sense of possibility that seemed almost tangible. Inside the building, the usual routine was unfolding. Employees arriving, computers powering up, papers shuffling. Yet in one quiet corner, a story of resilience and hope was unfolding, unseen by most, but profound in its impact. Tom Hanks, the janitor, entered the hallway with a mixture of nervousness and determination. Over the past several weeks, he had made remarkable progress. The small victories that had once seemed monumental, standing without support, shifting weight, taking a few steps, had grown into longer stretches of walking and stronger movements. But today felt different. Today he sensed that something significant was about to happen. Taylor Swift was already there, her notebook in hand, a warm smile lighting up her face. "Good morning, Tom," she said cheerfully. "Are you ready to try something new today?" Tom nodded, though his heart thumped nervously. "I think so," he replied, "but I still feel a bit scared. What if I stumble or fall?" Taylor knelt beside him and placed a hand gently on his shoulder. "It's okay to be scared," she said softly. "But remember, you've already come so far. You've faced fear every day and moved past it. Today is just another step, literally and figuratively. I'll be right here with you." They began with gentle stretches, warming up muscles that had been dormant for years. Tom felt the familiar tremor of nerves in his legs, but with Taylor's encouragement, he pushed through. Each small movement was deliberate, each shift of balance carefully guided, and slowly, steadily, he regained control over muscles that had forgotten their purpose. After warming up, Taylor led him to a section of the hallway she had prepared for today's exercises. Small cones marked a path, chairs provided support, and a soft mat cushioned the floor. It was designed to challenge his balance, strengthen his legs, and prepare him for longer steps. "Remember," Taylor said, "take it one step at a time. Don't rush. Trust your body and trust yourself." Tom took a deep breath and lifted one foot. The familiar fear surged, but he forced himself forward. Step by step, he moved along the path, gripping a chair for support when needed. Each small accomplishment was met with Taylor's quiet praise, her words reinforcing his growing confidence. "Excellent, Tom," she said softly. "See how much stronger you are today?" Tom smiled, a mix of pride and disbelief on his face. "I can't believe I'm doing this," he said. "Just a few weeks ago, I didn't even think I could stand for more than a few seconds. Taylor's smile widened. That's the power of persistence. That's the power of believing in yourself, and having someone believe in you too. Meanwhile, Michael Jordan passed by the hallway on his way to a meeting. He paused, curiosity piqued. He had been observing Tom's progress for several days now, and each day seemed more impressive than the last. Today, however, he witnessed something remarkable. Tom Hanks, the janitor he had once been ready to fire, walking steadily across the hallway without falling, a look of determination and pride on his face. Michael felt a strange sense of awe. He had always believed that strength came from control, discipline, and making the right decisions. But watching Tom, he realized that strength could also emerge from resilience, hope, and the quiet encouragement of someone who truly cared. "Taylor," Michael said softly, approaching them. "He's incredible. I didn't expect this. How did he manage to do this?" Taylor looked up, her eyes calm and confident. "He managed it because he believed and because he had hope. And because he knew he wasn't alone. That's all it takes sometimes. Belief, effort, and support." Michael nodded slowly, absorbing the lesson. He had focused so long on metrics, mistakes, and efficiency that he had forgotten the human side of leadership. Watching Tom, he understood that sometimes the most powerful changes came not from strategy or reports, but from care, belief, and patience. By mid-morning, Tom had progressed further than ever. With Taylor's support, he had walked the length of the hallway multiple times, each time with increased confidence. He no longer relied as heavily on the chair for support, and even attempted to navigate small turns without assistance. Every movement was a testament to his perseverance, and the transformation was undeniable. "You're doing amazing, Tom," Taylor said softly. "Look at how far you've come. Just imagine what you'll achieve in the coming weeks." Tom shook his head, smiling. "It feels incredible. I never thought I'd feel this capable again." The employees who passed by could not help but notice. Some stopped to watch quietly, whispering among themselves. Tom Hanks, the quiet janitor, had become a symbol of determination and hope. His journey inspired more than just himself. It inspired everyone who witnessed it. During a brief pause, Tom sat down on the mat, wiping sweat from his brow. "Taylor, I need to ask, why did you believe in me from the start? You barely knew me, and yet you never gave up on me." Taylor sat beside him, her expression thoughtful. "Because I saw something you didn't see in yourself. I saw your strength, your kindness, and the potential that had been buried by fear and limitations. Sometimes people need someone to believe in them until they can believe in themselves." Tom felt a lump in his throat. Her words were simple yet powerful. For years he had carried the invisible burden of limitation, the fear, the frustration, the resignation that had become a part of his life. And now, with Taylor's belief guiding him, he was slowly shedding that burden step by step. The afternoon brought new challenges. Taylor introduced exercises that required more balance, longer steps, and subtle shifts of weight. Tom's body protested at first, muscles trembling from lack of use, but he pressed on, determined not to let fear dictate his actions. "You're stronger than you think," Taylor reminded him. "Don't be afraid of making mistakes. Every step counts, even if it feels small." Step by step, Tom moved through the exercises. His confidence grew with each movement, and by the end of the afternoon he was walking more steadily than he had in years. Each stride was a victory, each step a declaration that limitations did not define him. Michael Jordan, observing from a distance, felt a mix of pride and humility. He had been ready to fire Tom just weeks ago, failing to see the depth of his potential. Now he understood that leadership required more than decisions and strategy. It required empathy, patience, and the courage to nurture those around you. By the end of the day, Tom and Taylor had completed the exercises. Tom's legs were sore, but he felt a profound sense of accomplishment. He had walked further than ever, and more importantly, he had begun to believe in himself again. "You did incredible today," Taylor said, helping him to a chair. "Tomorrow we'll go even further. One step at a time, and you'll surprise yourself." Tom nodded, a smile tugging at his lips. "Thank you, Taylor. You've given me something I thought I lost forever, hope. And now I feel like I can truly move forward." As they left the office, the sun cast long shadows across the hallway. Tom felt lighter than he had in years, his burden slowly lifting with each step he took. The journey was far from over, but for the first time he believed that he could reclaim not just his mobility, but his life. That evening, Tom reflected on the day at home. He thought about the invisible burden he had carried for so long, the fear, the frustration, and the resignation, and realized that it no longer weighed him down as heavily. Taylor's belief, encouragement, and guidance had shown him that even the deepest challenges could be overcome with persistence, care, and hope. Meanwhile, Taylor prepared for the next day with meticulous attention. She reviewed exercises, planned new movements, and considered ways to encourage Tom while respecting his pace. She knew the road ahead would be long and challenging, but she also knew that the human spirit could achieve extraordinary things when given support and belief. The next morning, the journey would continue. Tom would face new challenges, navigate new obstacles, and push himself further than he had ever imagined. And with Taylor by his side, each step, no matter how small, would bring him closer to reclaiming his life and rediscovering the freedom he had thought lost forever. Little did they know, the coming days would test not only Tom's physical strength, but also his courage, determination, and resilience. And as the sun set over the city that evening, one truth stood clear. Even the smallest gestures, a hand held, a belief expressed, a promise kept, could ignite hope, heal invisible wounds, and transform lives in ways that words alone could never capture. Tom Hanks, the janitor, was no longer defined by his limitations. He was defined by his determination, his courage, and the quiet strength that had been awakened within him. And Taylor Swift, the determined young girl, had proven that compassion, belief, and persistence could create miracles, one step at a time. The morning sun streamed through the tall windows of the office building, painting the hallways with golden light. The building had returned to its usual rhythm, computers whirring, phones ringing, and employees chatting quietly. Yet in one quiet corner, something extraordinary was about to happen. Tom Hanks, the janitor, stood at the edge of the hallway, taking deep breaths. His legs trembled slightly, but the determination in his eyes was unmistakable. Today, he would attempt something he had only dreamed of for years, walking independently, without support. Taylor Swift knelt beside him, her notebook resting on the floor, her eyes filled with warmth and encouragement. "Good morning, Tom," she said softly. "Today is the day. You're ready for this. I believe in you." Tom nodded, swallowing the lump in his throat. "I hope I can do it, Taylor. I really hope I can." "You can," she replied firmly. "You've come so far. All you need to do is take the first step, one step at a time." He focused on her words, on the warmth of her presence, and on the countless small victories that had led him to this moment. He had learned to trust his body again, to believe in his own strength, and to face fear head-on. Now it was time to take it further. Slowly he lifted one leg, then the other. His muscles protested, his heart pounded, but he moved deliberately inch by inch. Taylor walked beside him, ready to support him if needed, though she never touched him. Her belief alone gave him courage. Step by step, Tom moved down the hallway. His legs wobbled at first, but he adjusted, finding balance with each movement. He felt a strange mixture of fear and exhilaration. Every step was a triumph. Every inch covered a declaration that he would no longer be defined by his paralysis. Michael Jordan, walking by on his way to a meeting, stopped abruptly. He watched, stunned. Tom Hanks, the man he had been ready to fire just weeks ago, was walking independently, moving steadily with confidence and determination. Michael's eyes widened as he took in the scene. He had witnessed progress before, but nothing like this. "Taylor, is he walking?" Michael asked, almost in disbelief. "Yes, sir," Taylor replied calmly. "He's walking on his own. All he needed was a little belief and guidance. And he worked harder than anyone I've ever seen." Michael stood silently, reflecting on the lesson before him. He had spent years focused on efficiency, mistakes, and control. But here was proof that true strength came from belief, encouragement, and perseverance. He felt a mix of pride and humility, realizing that he had underestimated the potential of those around him. Tom continued his steps, gradually increasing his confidence. Each movement felt more natural, less tentative. He raised his head, feeling a sense of freedom he had not experienced in years. The world seemed larger, brighter, and full of possibilities he had long forgotten. Taylor's voice broke through his concentration, gentle, but firm. "Keep going, Tom, you're doing amazing. One step at a time. You're stronger than you know." The hallway seemed to stretch endlessly before him, yet Tom felt unstoppable. He moved with purpose, each step a victory over fear, limitation, and doubt. Memories of the past, of frustration, resignation, and pain, flashed through his mind. But they no longer held power over him. Today, he was reclaiming his life step by step. By midday, Tom had walked the entire length of the hallway multiple times. His legs were tired, but his spirit soared. He felt a sense of accomplishment that no promotion, reward, or praise could ever match. He had faced his fears, challenged his limitations, and discovered strength within himself that he had thought lost forever. Taylor clapped softly, her eyes shining with pride. "Tom, you did it. Look at what you've achieved. You're walking independently. You've earned this." Tom's lips curved into a smile, tears welling in his eyes. "I can't believe this. I really did it. I never thought I'd feel this alive again." Michael Jordan, now standing nearby, felt a rush of emotion. He approached Tom slowly, unsure of what to say. I am so proud of you, Tom," he said finally. "You've shown me what real determination and courage look like. You've taught me a lesson I'll never forget." Tom looked at him, gratitude shining in his eyes. "Thank you, sir. I couldn't have done it without Taylor's guidance and belief. She reminded me that even the smallest step forward is still progress." Michael nodded slowly, humbled by the experience. "Sometimes we forget that the people around us are capable of so much more than we imagine. Today you've reminded me to see the potential in everyone, not just in numbers or reports." As the afternoon progressed, employees began noticing Tom's remarkable transformation. Some stopped to watch quietly, whispering in admiration. The janitor, who had been ready to be fired, was now walking with confidence, inspiring everyone who witnessed his journey. Tom felt a profound sense of pride, not just in his physical accomplishment, but in the journey itself, the small steps, the daily struggles, and the quiet victories that had led him to this moment. He realized that healing was not only physical but emotional and spiritual. He had learned to trust, to persevere, and to embrace hope even in the darkest times. By the end of the day, Tom had walked across the hallway several times without assistance. His legs trembled from exhaustion, but his heart was full. He had reclaimed a part of himself that he thought lost forever, and with it, he had discovered the power of belief, determination, and support. "Tom," Taylor said softly, guiding him to a chair, "look at what you've achieved. You've walked farther than ever, and you've done it with courage and grace. I'm so proud of you." Tom smiled, feeling a wave of gratitude. "I couldn't have done it without you, Taylor. You believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. You reminded me that I could overcome anything if I tried." As the sun set over the city, casting a warm glow across the office, Tom reflected on his journey. The fear, frustration, and resignation that had once defined his life were no longer his masters. He had faced his limitations, challenged his fears, and discovered strength and courage he had forgotten existed. Meanwhile, Taylor prepared for the next day, not because Tom needed more guidance, but because she believed in the power of continued encouragement and support. She knew that even the strongest among us can benefit from someone who believes in us, and she was determined to remain by Tom's side as he continued his journey. Michael Jordan, observing quietly, felt a profound shift within himself. He had learned a valuable lesson about leadership, compassion, and the transformative power of belief. He realized that success was not measured solely by results or efficiency, but by the strength, courage, and potential nurtured in those around him. That evening, as Tom rested at home, he felt a sense of peace he had not known in years. The journey had been long, challenging, and at times painful, but it had also been filled with hope, determination, and unexpected joy. He had walked again, but more importantly, he had reclaimed his sense of self, his confidence, and his belief in the power of persistence. The next morning, Tom returned to the office with a new perspective. He moved with confidence, each step a reminder of the journey he had undertaken. Taylor greeted him with a bright smile, proud of how far he had come. "Ready for today?" she asked. Tom nodded, his eyes shining with determination. "Yes, let's keep going." As he walked through the hallways, employees paused to watch, inspired by the sight of a man who had faced adversity and emerged stronger. His journey had become a symbol of resilience, courage, and the extraordinary power of belief. Michael Jordan, observing from his office, felt a deep sense of respect and humility. He understood that leadership was not about control, power, or punishment, but about seeing the potential in others, nurturing it, and believing in it even when it is not immediately visible. By the end of the week, Tom was walking with even greater confidence. He navigated small obstacles, moved with balance, and carried himself with a sense of pride and accomplishment. The janitor who had been ready to be fired was now a symbol of hope and determination, showing that transformation was possible when belief, support, and perseverance come together. Taylor watched him with pride, knowing that the journey had been about more than walking. It had been about healing, trust, courage, and the quiet power of encouragement. She had helped him take the first steps, but it was Tom's determination and belief in himself that had made the real difference. As the sun set once more over the city, Tom Hanks, the man who had been paralyzed, walked confidently through the office hallways. He had faced fear, overcome limitations, and discovered the extraordinary strength within himself. And alongside him, Taylor Swift, the young girl who believed in miracles, had shown that even the smallest gestures, a hand extended, a promise kept, a belief expressed, could change lives forever. The paralyzed janitor had taken the first step into a new life, and in that step he had discovered something far greater than mobility. He had discovered hope, courage, and the unshakable belief that even the darkest challenges could be overcome.